So when I'm talking with groups about backpacking, I'm always wondering, I'm always curious what they're thinking, especially if they're not backpackers. And so usually I'll tell people just to raise their hand, stop me anytime, ask me what your question is. And I just kind of maneuver through the talk through their questions. And I just gave a talk to a bunch of seniors like myself, most of who were not backpackers, if any. And one of the questions that always comes up is, bears, or, what goes bump in the night. My wife says I shouldn't, I've been looking, I've never seen a mountain lion. So I said at this talk that I've been looking for a cougar for years, and she said, no, I've been looking for a mountain lion for years. So I had to change my dialogue a little bit. The other thing is wild water. So, they kind of get freaked out when I tell them I don't filter water much, because a lot of people, that's a big fear. And a lot of times you'll find better water out here than coming out of their tap at home. But, I don't get into that. I just tell them that, it's like if you go to Mexico and drink the water, you get the screamers, but they don't. So I think I've built up enough immunities because I've never had an issue. So when I'm giving a talk, what I think is apparent quite often isn't. So recently at a talk, toward the end, a woman asked me, where do I sleep? And of course the stock answer is, for me, wherever it gets dark and I find a flat spot. And she said, outdoors? I guess she thought I was going to hit a Motel 6 every 20 miles or something, but, they just can't fathom that. People sleep outdoors because there's critters out here that'll eat you. And I guess that's kind of a good thing because these trails are pretty crowded already. So I do push the fact that, yeah, there are things that will eat you out here. So you never know what you're going to get asked. I was doing a book signing at Powell's bookstore in Portland once, 20 years ago. And they asked me to do something for kids. And so I said, fine. So they brought in some very enthusiastic 5- and 6-year-olds. And before I could even introduce myself, I had one kid just, he's got his hand up. And I said, yes, sir, you have a question? And he said, how come you're so old and your wife is so young? So as his mother was hauling him out of the store by the ear, I said, I think it has something to do with Miss Clairol. Quite often I just take my gear and show people the gear that I use. I mean, to a lot of the audience, probably roughing it is bad room service. So when I show them all this lightweight gear, and they lift up my pack and see how light it is and know that that's what I use to hike 500 miles, 2,500 miles, they just, they just don't have a clue. And so they think that's really something, but to me, it's just normal. So when you talk to a group of people that have no background in backpacking or maybe even hiking, it's so foreign to them when you talk about hiking thousands of miles, even hundreds of miles. And that's really the same thing with a new through hiker, someone who's never through hiked. Their perspective is so much different than a person that's done one through hike, because you can put it into perspective at that point. You've had some experience under your belt. And so, when I give a talk, I'm probably like a freak show to some of these people. And then they ask me about food. I told this last group that I just started on the Colorado Trail. I used to put PB2 a lot in my tortillas with my maple flavored bacon jerky. But now I've been using mustard, and that turns them off. They're never going backpacking if they have to eat a tortilla with bacon, jerky, and mustard, but I love it. How you doing?
Good, how are you?
Beautiful day.
It is, isn't it?
Then when I tell them I don't carry a stove, I just eat cold food all the time, that kind of sends them over the edge. But to each his own. Hike your own hike. Keep smiling.